Kia ora, New Zealand. Welcome to Sweet Chain Live. My name's Matt Drake. This is episode 164, and I'm joined this evening by my co-host, Morgan Harfell. Good evening, Morgan.
Evening, Matt. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Very good. What is it? It's Anzac Day today, so very.
Lest we forget.
Indeed. A very poignant time to do some reflecting. But also a bit of a public holiday as well. So there would have been a lot of people taking advantage of that and getting out and hitting the course. I'm sure. How is
Did you hit the course today?
I didn't today, no, but I have this week. I fortunately managed to get out of the weekend. How did have you played at all this week?
Yeah, I think I've played most of the courses in Queenstown in the last week. It's been a busy one. I'm just trying to get my disc golf fix in before I go away and just have to think about disc golf for a few weeks.
We've just lost you. Oh no, there we go. We've lost your video temporarily there, but we are back. Right. No, it's all good. I got to play on Sunday actually. I got to play on Sunday, and yeah, it was great. Had a fantastic time playing with some of the old farts. On what was a very calm day, little different conditions today, but yeah, it was very good. Fortunately, only took two bogeys, which were both on the big par 7 up the hill because I can't throw far. So, when faced with that, it was somewhat troublesome, but managed to.
Hang on, am I hearing things? Par 7?
No, hole 7. It's a par 5. Yeah.
I think you said par 7. I think you threw me off there. I was like, hang on, am I hearing things?
That's
here?
Right. We've got a new. It's a North Island par 7 is it's 2.5 kilometers long. No, it was quite it was quite good. It was good fun, but unfortunately didn't play those or that hole particularly well that day.
Yeah, nice one.
But anyway,
kia ora to everybody in the chat.
Indeed,
hey guys,
indeed.
Say hello in the chat. There's a few of you already there, but give us a wave, give us a hi. Tell us how you're doing. Tell us about your studying for maths for the exam tomorrow, Jake, and let us know what's up.
Very best of luck with your exam tomorrow, Jake. Make sure you study hard. And get good evening. Who we got? Craig, Arn, Kelvin, Matthew, Ewan, Sam, Marie. Good to see you all. So this evening we've got a great show lined up. We're going to go through hot scores first up. Then we've got a few bits and pieces to go through, which is an announcement on Nationals, which came out earlier on this evening. You've probably seen it, but if you haven't, we're going to go and give you all the details. And then we've got our guest for tonight, Martin McGaw, joining us. It's the first time that I've met him, and we'll be chatting everything about NZDG. We'll be covering off the upcoming AGM. We've got the covering the imminent majors announcement, of which one has already happened, and so so if you've got any questions for Martin, he is here in his capacity as secretary of NZDG. So feel free to send them through in the chat, and we'll put them across. So yeah, let's kick into it. We've also then got two tournaments this weekend, Morgan. We've got the Brook Park Brave up in Tekwiti occurring, and also the Rip and Dip down south in Dipton. So yeah, we'll be previewing both of those and having a look through who we think are some of the favourites heading into those tournaments. And also, this is the last week you're going to be co-hosting for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, just for a few weeks. I'll be out of here for 3 weeks. I probably don't need to go over it too much more. Don't want to make everyone jealous. I'm just going on holiday.
Excellent. Well, look, we'll have more details about what that looks like for the show next week. But let's start with hot scores. Morgan, take us through the south.
Rightio, Matt. Jumping in as ever down into Queen's Park, down south in the deep south, we've got Mr. Josh Walker this week taking it down with a 12 under par. Kelvin Cummings taking down Chingford this week with a 4 under par. His mate Lance Essen also with a 4 under par with the hot score for Brockville this week. Coming up into my neck of the woods, the echo continues. Stiffmeister does it yet again with just a 9 under par this week. Still a great score, but a little bit of a shaving from weeks gone past. 12 under par gets the job done at Lismore this week, and none other than Team Generations' Jin Cato. Shout out my guy. 12 under par at Lismore is awesome. Ashton Clark gets the job done at Jelly Park this week with a 14 under par. Sticking around in Christchurch at Warren Park, and we have Inchy with a 42, 12 under par. Smallbone Reserve, KBG with a 45, 13 under par. Mr. Jasper Vandermeer, good to see his name back up here on the hot scores. -6 taking down Queen's Park Reserve this week. Saxton Field and Mr. Tommy Strawbridge with a 5 under par holds the keys this week. And around out the south, Alex Batten with a 14 under par at Brantford Park. Awesome shooting there, guys. And how we're looking in the north, Matt?
So in the North Island, starting up in Berrenport, in the capital, it's the man, the myth, the legend, and Boom Boom Brett Carlo, who tie for the lead at 7 under par. I was fortunate to play with Brett on his 7 under on Sunday. Over the water at Koi Koi, Andy Davey hits a 6 under par. Up at Harcourt Park, it's Nui Styles who hits a 54 even par. Johnny Wake takes out the accolades at Linklater with a 10 down. Andrew F is the dominant force in Maryland's, and Callum Petman hits a 3 under to match Andrew F's score. Up at Henderson, Aidan hits 11 under par, and over at Rosedale, it's a tie between Isaac Dunn and Eldon Pasquale, who both hit +3. And at Woodhill, Joel JC hits a 5 under par. So well done to everybody who achieved a hot score this week. Now, one of the things that was announced earlier on this evening, you probably saw this if you were on Facebook. I don't know if there was an email about it. Maybe that's the question we'll get to.
I haven't seen an email, but it's definitely on Facebook and Instagram.
But there's a Facebook and email post. I'm just trying to find the actual post rather than a share of it.
Yeah.
But here it is. And then we'll just scoot across to here it is. So New Zealand Nationals 2025 will be held in Christchurch on the weekend of Waitangi weekend. So that's the 6th to the 9th of February. It's a 4-day event from Christchurch, and the event will be split across the event will be split across the 2 courses of Bottle Lake and Brooker Ave. So fantastic venues. Yeah, I mean, look, Brooker Ave's obviously had a lot of work put into it from humble beginnings, but a fantastic place to play disc golf, being on the red zone there. And obviously we saw the work that has gone into Bottle Lake earlier on this year when the Bottle Lake Open was played. So that's where it's going to be in 2025. That's the obviously registration and all that kind of stuff will be announced soonish, but that's just 10 months away. So 9 months away maybe. Not too far at all. We'll definitely be talking to Martin about that, getting some thoughts on that, and I'm excited for Nationals to come to Christchurch, and especially for those 2 venues. I think it's going to be fantastic. Yeah. Look, we know that Christchurch has got the kind of capacity to be able to hold Nationals, and across 2 courses as well. Also know that the 2 people who manage those courses, the Watkinsons at Bottle Lake and Bros for Change at Brooker Ave, put in an incredible amount of work to get them up to scratch and to make them look nice, and to have the setup of the holes and everything's all right. In fact, a lot of the feedback that we get about the courses at both of those venues is all very positive. So yeah, looks like a great place to have Nationals. I'm going to be doing my best to see if I can get down, and we'll see what we can do. Right, now we've had a little bit of an issue with the subscriber count. I don't know what's going on.
What's happened right there?
Unless like 250 people have just sort of went, no, sod it, I'm off. I don't know. It was fine at the beginning of the stream. So we still are doing a giveaway at 400 subscribers. So when we get there, you can help us get there actually by hitting the subscribe button, checking that the subscribe button has been hit. And if you give us a like as well, then we're more likely to appear in front of more eyes. Right. So with that in mind,
I have.
So go on,
Matt. I was just going to say I have noticed my video has dropped out a couple times. The weather outside is pretty atrocious.
Right.
So
okay.
Possibly something to do with that, but we will see.
Okay. Okay. It's just the display that's wrong. It looks like it. Maybe the link I've got between. I won't go into the details. But the only kind of contentious kind of element to this announcement and is, I guess, that it's being made at the very end of a board term, because we know that there's an upcoming AGM about to be announced. We'll talk to Martin in a second a little bit more about potentially when that might be. I'm not aware of any announcement that's been made to date. But we do know that the next AGM will occur before the 31st of May. It has to constitutionally, and so it's coming up pretty late in this term, and pretty early. I'm trying to think when Nationals was announced last year. Was it June time? I don't know.
Couldn't tell you. And I think with the AGM being end of May, it needs to be announced 30 days prior.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get into the weeds with that and Martin in a second. But yeah, I have to say I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to do my best to play, and I've got about 9 months to sort my stuff out to be able to do it. Within a couple of minutes on our old farts chat, Kath Headley sparked up and said, "So who's in for it then?" Already organising. It's she's incredible. She's incredible, I tell you.
She is incredible. I will have to see what happens for me and how nice my boss is feeling, because that is. It's 2 days after we come back from Thailand.
Oh wow! Okay, so you've already been on holiday, and you'll be landing, and then you might as well just fly straight back into Christchurch, and instead of
that's already been in our Thailand chat tonight. You got one of the boys. Are we flying straight into Christchurch? Then?
Looks like it. Anyway, right, let's bring our guest in this evening, and we're joined very. Pleased to be joined by the Secretary of NZDG, Martin McGaw. Good evening. That's not Martin. That's Martin. Good evening, Martin. How are you?
Kia ora, I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. I mean, I can't believe this is the first time I'm meeting you. So, hello, welcome to the show. It's great to meet you. I guess there might also be a bunch of people out there who haven't met you or don't know kind of your background or where you're from, etc. Do you want to just sort of give us a bit of a history about how you got to be in the position you're in? What's your disc golf career history like, and that kind of stuff?
Sure. My disc golf career, it's illustrious. I started playing at Woodhill with my mates when I came back from Australia. And they beat me hands down, and so my mission became to beat each of them. And I've bet one of them at Ballaraka in the Nationals, Christian Geese. Mm-hmm. Sorry, buddy. And the other one I haven't yet beat. I became the secretary kind of by default at last year's AGM. No one else stood for the role. And I'm at law school. I'm studying to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to, at law school, you just talk about theory and, trash, essentially. You read a lot. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to practically use the skills that I'm getting and gaining for something that I care about and contribute, that I could contribute to, and that kind of fits my community vibe and how I want to help people and whatever. Those virtues aside, I just thought, hey, let's give it a go. And it's been quite an interesting year in terms of NZDG stuff. Mm-hmm. But I suppose that's the answer to your question, really. but just fell into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way of a few people on the board. Is that a fair statement from last year? No one really putting their hand up for any specific roles other than I think Brady with the chairman. And then a lot of those roles sort of just fell into place. Like, how's that sort of played out over 12 months for you? You said it's been an interesting time.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think Brady and Andrew, chair and tour, have served previous terms. Chris, the treasurer at the time, resigned partway through his term, and then Jonathan and Lucinda, the deputy chair and comms, were co-opted after the AGM, just to boost the numbers and get people and bums and seats kind of thing, to get things ticking over in those areas. Deputy chair is largely responsible for club communications and that kind of thing, and comms is a critical role. But co-opting people isn't exactly ideal. And the summary, really, it's not just me, but it's the rest of the board of this year has just been kind of putting out fires rather than being smoke alarms and future-proofing or any of that stuff. It's kind of been having to deal with nationals firstly, so the TDU situation where normally in NZDG it's an individual running a tournament, but this time we had a corporation, so someone for profit, where our constitution specifically prevents members getting pecuniary gain. So we had to make a contract along those lines about saying, hey, you can't just charge people hand over fist to play disc golf. So that was kind of my first thing. And then we changed data providers to Google from whatever shit was going on, and we needed to upgrade. And yeah, just been a constant stream of work that we've never really gotten ahead of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. But your roles essentially have been crossing over quite heavily, and I wanted to say thank you to you for starters, because you reached out to me, well, a little while ago, and we finally got to have a conversation over the phone a couple of weeks back now, and I took a lot from that and really appreciated that phone call. And I know you've been calling other people around the country as well, and I mean, I just want to say thank you for that for starters, because it's really nice to hear from someone finally. Your roles are clearly crossing over a lot, and I'm going around in a bit of a circle here, just drawing back to my point that I said to you before the show. I really want you to stick around next term, Martin.
I appreciate the support.
I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think it's really tough because, like, the immediate fallback is, I'm just a volunteer. This is my time, I'm not getting paid or whatever. But I don't think that's quite the right approach to governance. And particularly our sport's in a bit of a boon or what have you. And New Zealand Disc Golf has done really good things and can keep going, but it requires us to keep meeting that challenge. And it's been really good to serve with the people on the board despite whatever. And I'm really quite determined not to destroy things, but to keep building them. Obviously, there's an election coming up, and the members will vote as they wish. But it's important just to keep growing rather than just destroy and change for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes in the position I think you guys have been in, that 2 steps back to get that 1 step forward is going to be quite beneficial. That might not mean a complete breakdown, as you're saying right now, but definitely taking that backward step to go forwards can be a positive road to take.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But sorry, go, Matt.
Sorry, I was just going to say, guys, for anybody, I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation. If anyone's wondering about some of the video issues we're having, there's terrible weather down where Morgan is, and the weather up in Auckland, Martin, where you are, or rather the internet access where you are, isn't too flash either, from what I've heard. So,
so what are you saying? Not a Wellington issue, team?
It's not a Wellington issue for
not
once.
A Wellington issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, yeah. So from my perspective on this, I've really just sort of observed what's been going on. And Martin, you seem to have been probably the most active member of the board in terms of getting the comms, getting any kind of comms out, getting a talking to anybody or to taking any kind of feedback. And I know you reached out to me after the show where we talked about the feedback to nationals. You reached out and asked for more details of some of the comments that had come my way, which I think is fantastic. Just correct, it is your intention to stand again in the upcoming AGM?
I mean, it'd be good. I work full-time and study full-time.
Okay.
So I'd really have to, like, you can't just do things half-assed. You know, like if you're going to start a term, you need to finish it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Particularly for chair, secretary, and treasurer, if you drop out, it needs to be an SGM, and that's awkward for everybody. So this isn't really like an election, like campaign or whatever. I don't really care for that stuff. This is more like a situation where someone from NZDG, you can see their face. They're happy to answer questions. Nothing's off the table. Just like kind of demonstrating on behalf of the others that I serve with. There's a bit of an accountability here and responsibility and just those kind of things that are quite important. I think the one thing that would be better is communication. It's really difficult to communicate in a formal sense to people all the time, and can be off-putting. So, yeah, I mean, getting AGM announcements out and announcing nationals and getting minutes out to people and hearing and responding, it's quite a task. And so, yeah, I'd really like to work at that.
Yeah, it's definitely a hell of a lot of work involved. And I mean, you've obviously had some technical difficulties. You know, we love that term on the show. They should not be allowed to be said on this show, those words. But you've obviously had some technical difficulties getting everyone's emails from all of the different events you've had on NZDG over the last 12 months or even further back. And we've started seeing things on social media coming out there, going for a bit of a rally drive, I suppose, to try and get voters, which is fantastic because we do need voters. The more voters, the better. We've been a bit notorious in New Zealand for the last couple of years for having really poor voter turnout. So if anyone here that's in the chat and listening to the show right now, please vote this year. Vote for Martin. He's a good dude and we want him to run again. But yeah,
just vote.
Just exactly correct. Just vote.
Just help us out by voting.
So it does mean so much.
There's a couple of things that I would add onto that, and that is that in order for a democracy to work effectively, it relies on a well-informed electorate. So what are NZDG's plans to ensure that in the upcoming AGM, which I suspect will be announced probably within the next week, there's not really much longer it can be left before the announcement. What is NZDG's plan to ensure that you're going to have a lot of people who are eligible to vote who perhaps, if you hadn't done this email drive, wouldn't have? What are NZDG's plans to ensure that not only do these people vote, but the electorate is well informed?
That's a really good question. I think in terms of informed, it's a really broad question and it's a good question. I've been considering whether I should, once the email database is complete, whether I should send out every meeting minute that has been, particularly of the last year. Whether we should send out all the SGM and AGM notices, or whether we should make the files that we have accessible to everyone.
Yeah, they're not available on the website anyway. I haven't looked at it for a long time.
Some are, and some aren't. Yeah.
Not sure, but it speaks to that what level of informed we can ensure. You know, I think in terms of the Constitution, you get a 30-day lead-in. So the intention is within 4 days to have announced the AGM,
Okay.
and then 20 days before the AGM, so the 10 days later, you need to have your nominations in, and then 10 days after that, so 10 days before the election or the AGM and all that, there needs to be an agenda offered by NZDG, which actually raises probably the most interesting thing and the most thought-provoking thing that I've had is that members' motion from Arn, Ewan, and their co-signees. I think that kind of thing's really awesome, and I think that's one way that change and effective change can come about, is by members getting together and saying, hey, this is either good or bad or otherwise. In the democratic sense, that is just awesome. And
so part
so
of that members' motion was surrounded the announcement of majors prior to the AGM.
Yeah.
Some of that announcement has been done because it came out earlier on today with the announcement of nationals. So talk us through, if you can, what are the plans for? How do you square dealing with the members' motion and the announcement that went out today? And also, what's your intention with regards to the announcement of the other two majors?
Well, in a general sense, I think just at a common sense level, the best thing to do for particularly the nationals is to give the organizer as much time as possible to get their ducks in a row. It's a big job. It needs to get better every year. And there were direct issues last year with Nationals 24 about timeframes and things. We take these things in good faith. We can only be as good as we were you're only as good as your last gig or whatever. But I think time is a really important factor. And Jay put in, on behalf of Bros for Change and the Watkinsons, put in a bid in January, and I was pushing for that to get awarded fairly quickly. Nationals isn't something that people are jumping up and down and getting in a queue for. And I really considered that the best thing that we could do was to support whoever wanted to do it, and as absolutely like let's just go for it. Let's just give them as much support and help and wrap around love that we could. So they gave their bid, and we asked for a bit more clarity about financials and these kind of things and how a budget would work out. And that left us in a really awkward position, actually, because you have one bidder, right, out of however many tournament directors and however many people. So what do you do? And the board decided that we would kind of have put out a notice and say, is there anyone who wants to host these events? So after that notice, we actually got the South Island Championship bid. So again, not a great response from the membership widely. And the members' motion kind of fits into this in the sense that, there's a balancing to be had between the members' motion and stopping a decision versus the reasoning for giving a decision. And it seemed to be on the weighing of those two things, whether to stop and do nothing. Because the reason behind that members' motion kind of said, like, there might be an awarding to someone that we knew or someone that we liked, or, like not proper decision-making process. Whereas the actual reasoning flowed from a kind of a more reasonable point, and it kind of informed the goals of any board in promoting disc golf in New Zealand and, constitutional things that are important. It kind of felt like the right thing to do, with good reasons, was to appoint nationals rather than delay and stall. And then that person whose bid is saying, hey, I need to know now whether I'm actually going to do this.
Yeah,
and so
for
the
sure.
decision
Look,
became,
I think
let's do
no
it.
matter how this one panned out, you have ended up with a fantastic venues and fantastic hosts. So Nationals will be an absolute belter next year. That is a 100% guarantee. Kath Headley in the chat has just said, would be great to know if there's any other bids for majors currently, North or South Islands, I suppose.
There were at the close of bids acceptance. So at the last board meeting, there was one bid for South Island Championships.
Yep.
And there were no bids for the North Island Championships. But however, I see in the announcement that I can't speak out of turn here.
It's all right. If you've had one bid for South Island Champs, same as you have had for Nationals, are we going to be awarding that person? Are you guys going to be awarding that South Island Champs to that person, group, club, business? I don't know who it is. So
yeah, I think a little differently from the board, where they consider the three majors altogether as important as each other, whereas I kind of consider Nationals to be the most important and the North and South Islands to be like second, and then the other A tiers or what have you are important no less, but they don't have the same mana about them.
Yeah.
I think it's really critical that Nationals is fantastic and has all of those things and all those attributes that we really want. See, I occupy an interesting position here where I'm just a representative of a group. And that whole change between an individual and a group is some tricky business. Yeah.
Yep. I feel you.
Yeah.
We got to dance that rope, especially when we are on a podcast.
So
it's all recorded.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
So Martin, you spoke about earlier about releasing the minutes of releasing the board minutes and releasing some of the financial reports, etc. What's so far? What stopped those from being released?
Nothing stopped anything being released. No. It's just that thing of there's no process or protocol for this. Right. And if there is, like 99 other things, it's just not happening because it's up to someone who doesn't really know or isn't to know better.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that happen in that sense, and you're not doing a bad job because you're not doing a bad job because you're incompetent. You're not disloyal because you don't know what you're doing. And each of us in the board and in these roles have fallen into that category. I'm supposed to have the membership database list whole thing figured out, and if it wasn't for Michaela Kerr helping me with this Google form and stuff, it just wouldn't have happened. So it's that thing that I mentioned at the beginning where our sport and our governance is at one level, but we're rising to the next, and it's about making sure that we can kind of cover over the things that are missed and that need to be included. Yeah, it's because
the Constitution as it is now was done, and Paul Deacon will hopefully forgive me for getting this date wrong, but it was put together sort of circa 2018-19, I want to say.
Yeah.
And so disc golf in New Zealand looked a lot different then than it does now. It's probably in the region of, what do we reckon, 5 or 6 times the size of what it was player number wise.
Surely.
Perhaps even more. And so, do you think there's any kind of constitutional reform that needs to occur?
Yeah. The first reason is that the Incorporated Societies Act has changed. So it now mandates officers being roles like secretary or chair to be personally accountable, similar to company directorships.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer you can hide behind the incorporated society, the corporate veil. There's a lot more accountability coming for incorporated societies generally, and NZDG is an incorporated society, so we have to update the constitution by 2026.
Yep.
And it just seems like a no-brainer that if you're going to change one bit, well, you might as well have a look at the whole thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And the members' motion raised a votable issue at the AGM on a constitutional working group of sorts. I don't know what you'd want to call it. That's something that the board was already considering, is how do we... So noting that the Elite Series and other tournaments aren't on the NZDG books, as it were, how do we actually... our constitutional purpose is to further the growth of the game. So how do we as a board kind of unite everything and bring it all back together? And, like those kind of questions, I think, can be answered in that constitutional sense.
Yeah.
Rather than just leaving them to stew and fester or whatever. I think it can be a real good opportunity to have some hard looks and hard questions.
We got a question in the chat that's pretty relevant at this point, I think, under the topic of potential constitutional reform. Do you think a 12-month term is long enough to enable effective management of NZDG? That's from Brett Carlo.
Do I think 12 months is long enough? Yeah. I think maybe some roles could be longer. So you'd want a treasurer for 3 years or something like that. But I think actually the issue is that there's kind of 5 people on the board. I think one of the solutions is to have non-executive directors or a committee level put in, so that you kind of have then groups of people focusing on tasks, and that just spreads the workload,
rather
gets
than
more...
one or two people being responsible for the whole bunch.
Yeah. So comms have to deal with a website, social media, all of the stuff that at 2024 needs to be pretty savvy, It's a big workload, yeah.
For sure. With you would make huge changes, just even in that constitutional reform, if that was to happen. And people like yourself, you brains, the mental capacity of you two gentlemen alone, God, that's a much better way to put that, would go a long way into helping change that constitutional reform and everything that needs to go into that.
I think it'll be interesting to see who runs this year for various positions. I think when we talked about the growth of the game, on this channel we've watched the growth of the game over the last, how long have we been doing this for? 3 and a bit years, and we've watched for the first couple of years, actually, we did shows where we interviewed people who were going to be board members and current board members and, prior to the elections and stuff, to try and provide that little bit of more sort of informedness, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, to the public. And, I'd certainly be keen to do the same again this year. As I think that the sport's got to a kind of a size where the number of people who have an inclination and a competency to take up a role at NZDG has probably increased, and so I think that's I really hope we get a two things: one, a greater turnout in terms of number of nominations, and two, a greater turnout in terms of voters.
Yeah. Arn's just made a great comment in the chat there, just saying the issue is that the whole board can change in one election. At a minimum, having alternating biannual renewals is far better for continuity.
Yeah, it's a good...
Thanks for the big words, Arn.
I like that, Arn. Yeah, it is. I mean, if you asked me last year when there was no one standing for a couple of the roles, that's not really an issue. If it is that there are 25 people going for 5 jobs, then yeah, we need to think about continuity in that sense. And I hope that this election would be that election. That's why I think suggesting a committee or other things is like you're not losing momentum in people. They're just changing roles and contributing in a different way. Because a winner takes all things, like a president. Like if you run for chair and you don't get chair, then what do you do instead? You know, I think that being selective and keeping those brains in the team can be important.
And that inclination, right? Because you've done something to say I want to do this role. So I mean, yeah, you might not get it, and it might, and that's fair enough. That's up to the members. But then to still want to leverage that inclination, I think, is important. What to your from your experience and your kind of observations, what's been some of the barriers to people putting themselves forward for positions in the past, whether it be at an AGM or we've had an SGM since the last AGM?
It's just admin. It's the same with anything, you know, like it's just admin. Like there are good bits that you can bring about trying to change things, but you've definitely got to go through some work, you know, and maybe things you're not that interested in. One thing I'm not really interested in is like international Kiwis going overseas or whatever. I don't really care about that. That's my own personal thing. I'd rather give money to school kids and stuff, you know, to get them trying just to grow the sport and that vibe.
I was just about to reach out and ask for some money, though.
Yeah.
There he is, capping
like other people. Yeah, other people are keen and they say, "Oh no, we're going to go to the US World, this and that," and I think that's cool. But other people can do that, you know. My bag isn't that. I'm more interested in getting the right people in the right place, doing the right thing, and getting the sport in a general sense from its grassroots growing strong.
Yeah, that's a really big key there, and something I think has probably been missing quite heavily in terms of NZDG for not just this cycle or the last, or probably, God, as far back as I can remember, is actually really getting some proper, true support into grassroots disc golf and actually, you know, making some positive change within the community, as opposed to what, for me at least, just seems like is the whole of the NZDG has just been based around events for as long as opposed to actually community.
Yeah, I think that's the Constitution's going to help that change. There is a big focus within the Constitution and NZDG about the tour and, you know, tour standings and points and that kind of thing. But I think it's critical of any organisation that's trying to grow the sport that you have a strong whanaunga to, like, we're the governing body, right? So you whanaunga to your clubs and then they whanaunga to the members, you know, like that hierarchy, pretty important. There needs to be obviously board to members and stuff like that, but I think just setting that hierarchy means that growth is.
Well, the idea
the foundation.
Of people, you know, you have to belong to a club in order to play NZDG events. That's not a new idea. That's one that was floated as part of a campaign last year. But look, it sounds like having that kind of middle layer in really kind of helps and to precipitate some of the important information and also take some of the pressure off such a small group of people.
Yeah, I think there's...
Martin, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 sec. Can you do me one thing, just because I've done it on mine and it seems to have worked? Can you just click the wee camera icon at the bottom, turn your camera off, and then turn it back on after about 5 seconds, please?
Sure.
Sorry, it seems to have fixed my end, so hopefully it'll help on yours as well.
Am I having issues that I'm not knowing about? Just talking with my eyes closed.
The internet service, it would seem, is causing some dropouts in the camera, and I've tried to fix it, but it's not quite.
Yeah. I thought I'd go with the old. I thought I'd just go with the old on-off, see if that would work.
Audio is coming through fine, and that's the important bit. I mean, as lovely as you are to look at, the audio is, I think.
Oh, okay.
To see or hear rather. Anyway, let's move on. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on Tour Down Under. That occurred earlier on this year, a couple of months ago. What were your...
Yep.
And you would have seen it from its kind of, when it first came to NZDG as being like, hey, we want to do a thing, to right through to present day. Talk us through your thoughts. What were your observations?
For a first go, I think fantastic. Think wicked. That's what I think. Yeah, problems, 100%. But you wouldn't have it any other way, You're not going to learn if everything goes perfect. I think it was pretty weird at the beginning. It seemed like, 100K this and, big things. It seemed weird that little old New Zealand would get whoever here for stuff. And then there was a bit of delivery, which is good. I think we got 1 million YouTube views from those 4 weeks.
Definitely plenty of YouTube content with heaps of eyes on us, which is probably the biggest thing we can take away from that, other than the people in our community meeting these awesome players from across the pond. The big pond, not just the little pond to Aussie, but all the way to the States, So, yeah, it was just an interesting one. Obviously, you guys taking a bit of a different angle and approach, working with TDU and NZDG as one almost to make that all happen. So
yeah, I think those kind of initiatives are like, the results are really important and so are the outcomes. But I think it's taking the chance and the risk that I think is the thing that I would tip my hat to. 100% the outcomes need to always improve, and so do the results of the tournament, not just from a YouTube perspective, but from every person involved in the tournament having a great time. We heard things about toilets or otherwise on this show and in other places, and hey, a perfect tournament means that no one complained about anything. It's very unlikely to happen, but I think just taking the risk.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, my hyzer went out wrong, so the toilets were, that's how it is. I just think taking the risk is the key bit, and trying to push boundaries is the whole key bit about growth. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always had, and we're not about that.
Yeah, for sure. I guess my only comment, concern, thought on the whole matter is you're saying that you want to take this risk to go and try and do this new thing when we're right in a point where NZDG is really trying to rebuild and just re-establish itself, and there's just this whole big boom that's connected to it with this risk that you're calling it. So it was interesting. There's a lot of things I loved about TDU, man. Just so many things, but it was, this isn't the show where I'm getting into TDU or talking about it, but we're just talking about the integration of NZDG and TDU. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it speaks to a broader idea that, volunteer members of an organization can't really run events or run a tour. So I think the risk in the sense is, hey, do we let other people do this? Whereas the pattern has been, hey, we're going to do this. And I think the risk is, hey, should we let someone else do it? And I think that from the board's perspective or an NZDG perspective is the risk of giving control over to running of tournaments to a third party is the risk.
Yeah. Have you spoken about doing that further down the track with people other than TDU? And I'm not actually talking about myself at Elite Series. I'm talking about different community groups, different clubs and things to actually be hosting these events as opposed to NZDG. Is that a thought that's been talked about?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I talked to you about it, Morgan, when we had a call.
Yeah, that's right. We did. Actually,
it was suggested to me, I think, by Hayden Shaw that New Zealand disc golf could refocus towards funding and towards the growth of the game rather than concerning itself with like tournaments and things like that. But
yeah,
again, that's probably more an issue for the constitutional review and talking about the purpose of the organization, and that's the new board's work. It's not really my place. If I'm representing NZDG in this capacity, to give all of my personal opinions,
yeah, fair enough.
But I think that if we sort out the money and the growth, and let other third parties take care of tournaments and things like that, the only issue becomes enforcement, right? What do you do when someone does something wrong if you don't control things? So
yeah,
there's a bunch of issues to work through.
That's where your PDJ rep comes in, though, as well, because they're the ones that are supposed to be managing the expectation levels of events from their point of view. And realistically, once you're crossing the threshold of what they're after, unless you at NZDG are setting some higher standards than what the world governing body is, then that should be the level, and that's the job of the PDGA rep to uphold. That is their job.
Yeah, so I think these things are good ideas, but good ideas are just good ideas. They really need to be worked through, and in a formal sense, because we have a constitution and all that stuff. It's a bit of hard yakka to get the right words in the right place.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Oh, good, Matt.
So yeah, I guess I want to touch on some of the kind of financial stuff. Because in the absence of kind of financial reports, and this might come out in the AGM reports, which will likely be released shortly before the AGM in a month or so time. Everybody who plays an NZDG event, part of their entry fee goes to NZDG. So could you give us a broad kind of idea of where that money's gone this year? Is there a big war chest somewhere, or is it how's it been distributed so far, or how's the spending been this year?
I mean, if we talk about collection, I've paid like $45 or something this year to be a member of NZDG, where it only costs $7. So each tournament I play, I pay $7 to the NZDG for a membership. Oh well, the 6 after the first one I'm paying again and again and again for something I've already got. The board's pretty hesitant. There's a general vibe to kind of spend money. There isn't a lot of things that seem to stick out as really good funding options, because the trickiness comes is that you're trying to grow the sport as a whole, but one person from a specific avenue asks, and how do you give that specific avenue something when you don't have other? So like, yeah, it's hard. It's kind of, my words are failing me right now, but there's essentially just money collected, isn't really going to this or to that. We want it to go out, but
is that because
the applications don't necessarily the applications are so specific that they don't cover a wide range of things.
Okay,
and
so is that an issue with
one.
the application process and the requirements on that, or is it? And to that, I guess I would add, it feels like you've got one big pool of money, and if someone makes an application, is the impact of that application gonna justify the spend that might go on it? Is it? I guess better to kind of divvy that pool into smaller amounts and say, right, this is for this type of activity, this is for this type of activity, and then seek applications through. I mean, what are your thoughts? Is it an application process thing, or is it a
I think
it's to spend money, or is it a what else?
No. I think it's actually, there's a perception that NZDG has millions and millions of dollars in the bank, when realistically it kind of doesn't. I think the yearly earnings are $5,000 or ish. When the last round of travel grants, which are grants to give players who may not have the opportunity to travel a grant to go to a tournament and compete, the total application was $5,000. So our yearly budget on like 15 people going to a tournament, you know, like that doesn't really tie up with the idea of promoting the whole sport.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to think like, how do we spend this money? We got an application for to go to Flying Kiwis overseas team, and the costs in New Zealand Disc Golf sponsoring that were like 15 grand. That's the whole kitty gone for one event. You know, so there's a real perception that New zealand disc golf are like Scrooge McDuck sitting on all of this money when the insurance goes out and we've got to pay NZDG and like, you know, like we need to stay financially viable and have money in the kitty, but we also need to grow the sport.
Yeah.
So it's real tough to manage these things. I think the constitutional review again will help when we talk about these things directly, figure out quite where we can put money in the right place and how we can get more of it from third parties.
I think
I think that's going to be a big key as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think that's going to be a big key, is getting some more funding, really.
Yeah, Sport New Zealand took like 3 months to get back to me asking, hey, are we like affiliated as a sport? Like, where do we stand? I couldn't find anything on their website. No one would answer my calls. I emailed this guy, I emailed the Minister of Sport, I emailed everywhere around, and it took 3 months for them to get back and say, our funding round is currently closing, if you'd like to thing, you know, like we're there on the radar, but we're not in their like Kiwi Bank app for them to pay us money. Where we need to get to that, we need to get to their app, you know.
So that's in part down to, you know, a few years ago, disc golf may not have even just been considered far too small a sport, far too fringe, to you know, be granted access to that kind of level. I think it's maybe different now, and you can have a different conversation. Ewing in the chat makes a comment: lack of wider strategy long term. The NZDG constitution lays out several constitutional goals, I guess you could call them. I don't know whether they're goals. They're not visions, but they're goals.
That's you say purpose.
Okay,
purpose of the organisation.
Purposes. I think there's about half a dozen. Do you think that alongside those purposes, there needs to be kind of a longer term 3, 5, maybe even longer year strategy that talks about how we're going to get from where we are now to a place in the future which ticks all of these boxes and is a position that could be considered a success if looked back retroactively?
I mean, if anyone's got enough time to deal with next week, let alone 5 years, I'd love that. You know, I think idealism is really cool, but I think realism is more important. Like there is no 5-year plan. There is no 1 year plan. That's just how it is. You can say that you'd want to be somewhere in 1 year or 5 years, but you're not going to know if you're going to get there to measure your own success, you know?
Yeah.
But goals are important. So, you know, how do you kind of... That's a tough one. I think year on year, the sport grows, and I think that's the key bit. There's more people playing. There's more courses. There's more clubs, whatever. I think we need to be realistic with our expectations. If it's not, it just puts pressure around the place, and no one needs that, you know?
Yeah. Goals are definitely a massive one, though. Realistic or not realistic, setting yourself some sort of, you know, carrot to chase down.
Yeah, but I would say
that's right.
Effective goal setting and likelihood of achievement relies on, in part, two things. One, knowing where you want to get to, which is quite a bit easier to put together. Another one is knowing where you are. And you know, it's a lot easier to work out how to get to where you want to be if you know where you are. And from what it sounds like, from what I'm picking up, and forgive me and correct me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly here, that's been a bit of an issue. Is exactly knowing where the state of the game is.
No. you're kind of on the right track, but I don't think that's what governance is.
Okay.
It's not parliament. It's not presidential stuff. We represent members. So where are the ideas from the membership to be submitted to the board? You know, like it's a two-way thing between the board running and the members contributing. So
yeah,
where do the ideas come from? Is it on me to come up? You know,
okay.
like that's the conundrum, is between the relationship between board and member is really not really well managed in any sense.
I suppose that,
and is it on this or that guy's?
And I suppose
who's responsible for that?
Perhaps the issue, and also falls under NZDG's responsibility in order to build the communication frameworks that will allow the membership to put forward its ideas in a way that ensures that they get heard, but also that the best ones are taken forward and actioned.
Yeah, I think that's the key bit. Is actually communication between board and member. That's why I really support the members' motion, because that's the clearest signal from the membership that the board has had, is like, hey, we've got a motion and it's all signed perfectly and formatted correctly or whatever. So if we can get those questions in votable form, people can vote on them, and that's so cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think that would be made easier if it was made easier by NZDG in terms of how does one go about doing that, because there hasn't been too many from what I'm aware, and then one comes through that seems to ask some genuine and legitimate questions. So I guess the idea going forward might be, well, how can we make sure that this is something which is encouraged in the future, and also something which is easy to do, right? Because a lot of people will be put off by legal jargon, or having to format things in a particular way, or making sure that they've got a certain number of people co-signed or whatever. And I don't know, all of the stuff. I was one of the co-signees on the members' motion, and I was impressed by the way it was put together, and I thought the points were legitimate, hence why I put my name on it. And but that really kind of came out of the blue for me. I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was kind of a thing I actually, no, that's a lie. I knew that you could do it, but I didn't know the requirements that one needed to do in order to get it through. So
that's the cool thing about why it's cool, is now there's a person who can receive an answer and be accountable, and there's people who can give those questions. So there is that member and board interaction.
Marie Cummings in the chat just said, is there a way going forward to make NZDG more approachable to members?
Give me a call, send me a message. What are you up to? Let's go. Secretary at NZDG.
Yeah. I was going to say,
go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, these guys have got all their emails on the website. The communications is, I think, comms at NZDG, or what are your
.org.nz,
.org.nz, yeah. So, yeah. Hey, Marie, just look at this man. Super approachable. You know what? And I mean, as you just said, are you welcome to phone calls with anyone from the community? Obviously, you don't want 100 people calling you and having hour-long chats. It's just no one has the time of the day.
No, we always do like a message, and then you set up a time for a call, because life's busy and you never know when someone's on the toilet,
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's right. But these guys all have emails, so make sure you do get in touch if you do want to speak to them about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Raise your issues.
What, Martin? I'd like your opinion on something, and that is the NZDG tour, and the tour points, and its kind of awarding of a tour champion. In the international model, the PDGA is the governing body, And the Disc Golf Pro Tour are a third-party, privately owned, for-profit company which run the tour, sanctioned by the PDGA, and award a tour winner at the end of the year. That is the one that matters, right? That's the one that people want to win, right? You've got nationals. That's a kind of a separate tournament, and that's PDGA World Championships. And we've seen the transition of the Disc Golf Pro Tour taking on the PDGA Tour, as it was. I forget the name of it. Do you see that as being a model that could work in New Zealand?
I mean, I could answer this question and say it depends on the details.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't. You know, like
that's the law student answer.
That's the law. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. No, I think it could. I think it could very well be. I think if the NZDG is a voluntary organisation, and if the other party is not a voluntary organisation, then it makes sense for them to do a heavy bit of the work. Yeah, because we're not just so in our setting there's PDGA, NZDG, and then the third party. So there's another layer of complexity. It's not just the PDGA outsourcing, for want of a better word, their major competitions or whatever. It could work.
Okay, all right. Let's leave it there. Yeah. Right, let's have a look at the chat, and let's go through and just see if we've got some more questions. I'm making some comments about Sport NZ. I think that's obviously there's a lot to go through in terms of getting funding for that, but I would hope that that'd be something that the new board can accelerate on.
Yeah, Anne's top comment about the governance guidelines are important. That's something that I found really helpful last year, just to read those things, and there's courses that they offer. But yeah, sorry, I haven't really read them. You can lead this one.
Scott says, is giving a select few money to travel to tournaments the best use of the $7 each of us pay to enter each tournament?
Best use? That's one use. You know,
yeah, no,
the best use probably maybe, because there's that balance of promoting us overseas, but then growing the sport, and so I think clear splitting of that reporting of that dollar would be important. I think $1 of your $7 could go to that.
And for that though, it's also so situational. It can be who, where, what, when, why.
So you know. Is the player grants when people get a grant for traveling to a tournament, is that typically an overseas tournament or a domestic one?
No, they can apply for overseas travel. The focus is on domestic travel, and particularly major or important tournaments. That's the kind of rank. So, but with the last travel grant applications, we granted a flat fee to each applicant because we didn't want to really deny anyone. We didn't really have much background information on the people. So this could have been their only way to get there or what have you, but we just decided to grant a flat fee to each person, regardless of where they were going or who they were or where they were coming from. So kind of like no favors, but like no flaw, no negativity either, you know, just here we go. If we want to help, so let's do it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Morgan, anything else that you want to cover?
Well, all I want to say is you are most definitely doing well in your law studies. You haven't deflected too much, Martin. But the one thing I will go back to is who's got South Island champs?
The last time I talked to you, you put your hand up.
I
last time
I will say that on the show that I said I will put my hand up for South Island champs if I can see some proper change.
So I can't guarantee that proper change. So I didn't consider that bid or like, that was where it ended. I can't demonstrate that to you, so I can't therefore be bound by my word.
No, that's fair. That is fair. So we don't have someone lined up then currently.
Oh, for South Island champs, yes.
We do for South Island.
Yeah.
If it's not me.
Or Twizel?
Twizel.
No, Twizel? Wanaka?
Wanaka. Yeah. Twizel.
They were the
golf club. Vortica.
Yeah. They're the single, and they were the single bidder for South Island.
Were they South Islands this year? Not that would be an issue in my eyes, but were they South Islands this year?
Was
that last year?
I can't remember.
All I can think of was Paradise Plates, so someone will know better than I will.
Yeah.
I feel like we should.
These questions normally go to Andrew Fleming. He's the tour director. I go, hey, who was this and that? He's the memory of that stuff.
Yeah. We're usually pretty good at keeping on top of these things, but this one in particular, I'm not 100% sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Hey, mate, you've had a lot of good support in the chat, though. I will say this: you've had a lot of great support in the chat. So just keep doing what you're doing, even if you decide not to run, well, which I do hope you do. But thank you. I want to put that back out there.
No, it's thank you guys for having me on and asking questions and putting up with my waffle.
It was Moonbase this year. Was South Islands. Yeah.
Yeah. So Twizel. Yeah. So Twizel. So it was. Yeah.
Oh, is it the same thing? Oh, well, that's
and it was obviously GCO.
It's a pretty cool tournament. It's a pretty cool.
Yeah, well, if it's pretty cool, we can, but it's just that thing that people just aren't applying and engaging with NZDG that much, and I really want to encourage it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that.
Yeah. So there's
Sorry, go on.
There's an AGM announcement really soon. I'm sending out test emails to make sure I've got the right people and that they don't bounce back. Did you know you can't send more than 500 emails from a Gmail account?
I've read your email.
Yeah. So that's a real interesting problem to have as a sport.
Yeah,
that's the Nigerian prince issue, I think.
Well, no, okay. So I think it's perhaps a bit of an example there of maybe how NZDG's. I think you talked about some software improvements. Going from using a Gmail account, which, again, a few years ago was probably sufficed because there were maybe fewer than 500 people who would be eligible for an invitation to the AGM, etc., to now a point where you need more. You might need a platform in order that does this kind of thing with far greater ease. Of course,
we just got a flash Google Drive where everything's all in the same place and doesn't crash when we open it, and we can all work on documents at the same time. It's just
fantastic,
mind-blowing.
Super handy, isn't it?
But, yeah. But yeah, it's we're working, and the AGM's coming up, so members' motions. It's not too late to receive those. I think the latest that you can put them is 20 days before it. So write a letter with 15 of your mates, and if it isn't in a votable form, I'll help you make it into a votable form, and we can get real change going and get momentum going for that change.
For sure. Brett Carlisle's just said in the chat, Matt, he goes, if only there was a media platform that NZDG could pop onto on the weekly.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see is more communication between the show and NZDG. We have in the past been worked a little bit closer than perhaps we have for the last few months, but I guess to Brett's point there, I would see that more as a that's a responsibility for NZDG to come forward and say, hey, we got something to say, and we want to know that people have talked to people about this. And at times when there's big announcements like AGMs, then it's perhaps right for us to reach out and say, hey, do you want to come on and make a comment?
Hey, can we, do you want to talk like next week about the AGM?
We can do, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so the announcement for the AGM is coming out in the next few days, is what you're saying, and then
so the absolute latest that it can be is the 30th of April.
Okay, so look out for an email in the next 4 or 5 days, chat, and that will be in the AGM will be 30 days after then, presumably. And it will.
Yes.
The notice of the AGM will invite people to put themselves forward for various board positions, all of which are contestable as constitutionally required, at least the constitution in its current form.
Yep. Yes. So you need to be nominated by a member and seconded by a member, and that all comes to secretary at NZDG, and it's my job to dutifully collect all those. And make sure that all the T's are dotted and the I's are crossed. It's pretty easy, really. But definitely put your hat in the ring.
Yeah.
And the new board may well decide that despite election results that we want to have more people involved. Or, sorry, the new board might decide that it wants to have more people involved and can co-opt members into different roles.
And form working groups that aren't directly elected, perhaps, but are of people with inclination and competence in a particular area.
Yeah, and I think that kind of that happened last year, and will probably happen every year until we get an overwhelming amount of people running for position.
And in terms of the election, and when people come to vote, am I right in saying if you're over the age of 13, then you can vote?
Yeah, weird constitutional rule. 13 is the age of reason in New Zealand disc golf.
It is. Well,
if you can do it sick as turnover roller or whatever, then you can do.
Certainly, there's enough 13-year-olds in the country who can do that. So, what I would say is, for any parents out there whose children do qualify, what a fantastic opportunity to get them into the habit of democracy and the kind of the workings of voting, which you would hope that they would encourage on a broader national sense as well, than by participating in the voting of people to the NZDG board. So I would hope that would occur, and I'm hoping that the turnout will be better than I think it was last year, which was, from memory, a little on the low side.
Yeah, we didn't make quorum at the SGM, which is 15 people, the first one. So for all those who are up in arms about democracy and disc golf, get into it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I will just finish with a couple of questions from the chat. I've had Matty Rant, who must have put a comment up in the chat because he's messaged me going, "Did you see my comment? Could you read it out?" He's just asking about will there be any prizes or recognition for divisions on the NZ Tour this year? For the Tour winners, I suppose. That means.
Yeah. There are, I think, contribution to disc golf. There's a contribution to disc golf award to vote on, and there are
that's
other similar kinds of awards.
That's an award that I thought had just sort of gone by the wayside, and
definitely
and actually it kind of fell in line with when the board changed its tournament year from being calendar year to kind of June to May or something. I think is what it is now. Is it June to May or July to June? Someone better than me will know that.
I think it's the second of those.
July to June.
But don't quote me.
And so, and it seems to be an award that kind of fell a little bit away, and I don't know if it was awarded previously, but yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed looking at who was who it was going to and reading about what they'd done and all that kind of stuff. So it would be
and we really want to promote the local legend kind of vibe, because lots of people don't make a change on a national level, but those changes and those influences at a regional level are critical to our sport. So we want to get a bit of that love going on.
Steve Lawson's just said Ken Harris was awarded that last year, so that's awesome to hear because Ken's up there in Taupo doing awesome work along with Steve Lawson.
Good on you, Ken.
That's good, but I didn't know that.
Ken,
Ken,
Yeah, no. And then one other one will just... Oh, sorry, actually, we'll touch back on that one because I think that question was more based around the players and the overall divisional winners, I would assume, the way it's written on there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean with regards to that particular award.
Keep asking, and I'll have a look.
With regards to that particular award, there's nothing on the NZDG website since 2021. So there's at least 2 years of missing awards there. I don't know, maybe 3, depending on when the dates changed or whatever. But no, Ken's an incredibly hardworking man up in Topol, and very deserving.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. While you're looking that one up, the other one I was just going to bring up was Calvin Cummings just going, is there people looking at promoting education of the sport in schools? There's heaps of teachers in the NZDG membership lists, I'm sure. And then you Calvin for outreach.
Yeah, schools are critical, there's no one in the current getting into the schools vibe, and an educator or a professional educator who has contacts would just be fantastic.
Yeah.
Sure. I think Christchurch leads the way in that kind of thing, where they go into and out of and around and all amongst schools.
Yeah.
They host that tournament.
And then they've got the likes of, I think it's Cameron Wu and Chelsea Pryor from Canterbury University that have got their club running there. And now they've got the inter-schools going on. I mean, seeing more of that around the country would be so amazing.
The model in Christchurch is super cool. Be cool to get more of that going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, Martin, I think that's probably all the questions we've had in the chat. If there's anything burning, chat, that we haven't covered or you feel you'd like more information from Martin on, you can reach out to him directly. He said his email address a few times in the stream, but we'll repeat it again. It's secretary@nzdg.org.
Org.nz, yeah.
I mean, if you've got any further questions for him, then pop it in an email. More importantly, look out for an email from Martin over the next few days, inviting you to the AGM. We'll tell you more details about the AGM on next week's show, when we'll go through exactly the dates involved, so you can mark your calendars and ensure that you're free to come along to the AGM. It's very important that people do. I think we'll leave it there. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Martin, for coming on the show, being frank and honest, and being the first person from NZDG who has reached out to the show ever and said, I want to say something from NZDG. So thank you for doing that. That, for me, marks a relatively big milestone, and one that I hope isn't in years to come seen in isolation.
Yeah, thank you. I've been talking to some really cool people recently about the sport, and it's only right to come on here and talk to you fellas. So all good.
Fantastic.
Awesome stuff.
Look, I
really appreciate it. Thank you.
And I really hope that we get to speak to you again, as in an official capacity as an NZDG board member. And I hope that that's something which happens. We'll be supporting. I mean, we don't pretend to be independent here. We're not sanctioned by anybody. We don't need to be independent. So we will call it as we see it, and tell you who we support in terms of who we might be voting for or who we support as the show. I think that we'll be supporting you in any nomination that you go for.
Yeah. Let's get some shirts made up. Vote for Martin.
Vote for Ranger, I used to have real beautiful ginger hair. But no. Hey, you guys are doing good work, and keep it up. And let's stay in touch, and we'll talk about the AGM soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, guys.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Speak to you soon.
Ka pai. See ya.
There we are, Morgan.
Very well received.
Yeah,
very well given on his end. Very well received by the chat and by us. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, look, I'm really pleased that he came on the show. And yeah, so Matt, I'd like to put forward a members vote to have your show start at 8 p.m. Yeah, so that's a question that's been asked. Anyway, we'll,
I was trying to come up with an answer for that. I was like, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we're too stuck in our ways, and the 9 p.m. Start time has been what it's been for 164 episodes, and so we'll continue at that time. Right.
But what we have been talking about, Matt, is doing some more content, which could be probably not for a little bit yet. Obviously, I'm going away, but I think once we're back, Matt and I will probably be looking at putting out some different content, maybe on some different sort of platforms for you guys to check out. So just keep an eye on that. We want to start doing a few more bits and pieces around the place. Yeah, keep an eye out for it.
It's going to be quite exciting. So yeah, as Morgan said, stay tuned. And what would you like to see Morgan and I doing within reason? And we'll see what we can come up with. We've got a few ideas in the pipeline. Anyway, right, let's get back to the nuts and bolts. There are 2 tournaments going on this weekend, Morgan. One is let's start in the North Island with the Brook Park Brave up in Te Kuiti, and there's 71 people competing at this event. It actually starts tomorrow, this one. So this one, it kicks off from tomorrow and over the weekend. So it's a 3-day event, 3-round tournament. Each person plays it's tea times, so you play off your tea time for people tomorrow. And yeah, so there we can see a pretty busy field. Perhaps not in terms of there's only 2 of the top 10. I think maybe 3 of the top 10 playing. But it's very tight after that, I would say.
Definitely is. I've seen a couple things. Joe Berry being the favourite going into this one. For me, it's hard to go past him, but God, I think Jacko's going to give it a red hot crack this weekend. He loves that course.
Joe Berry was picked out by Winner as being favourite. Jackson Sullivan, according to the data analytics team, is the favourite going into this event. Despite Joe Berry's win last year, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Joe shot pretty hot on this course. That can be tricky in places last year. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. Is anyone else going to break into the top 2? Do you think?
Yeah, man, for sure. I think Simon Feasy's got all the skill and ability to get that done, and we obviously know Mr. Andy Davian. We're really just looking at the top 4 names on that list, ratings wise. But yeah, I think out of those 4, I think Simon Feasy's got a chance to actually pull this one, not out the bag because he has all the ability to do it. But for me, Jacko. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'll be cheering Andy on. Obviously, as a Wellingtonian, would like to see him do well, and of course, the Mayor of Upper Hutt, Chris Sinai, I'd like to see him do well as well. Down into.
I would love to see. I'd love to see Felipe, who's hiding out down the bottom there, Snell's Beach. Felipe, no rating, hasn't been playing too much recently, but that guy is one of my favourite people to ever share a disc golf course with, and I wish him nothing other than the best, along with everyone else that's playing, obviously.
There we are. Josh Pratt and Joel Way are leading the way in MA1. Brian Levin and Ryan Martin Gorn also going to be heading up there. It's a very Auckland-heavy field, perhaps as you'd expect with its kind of location. Again, MA1's going to be tight as.
Always is. It's such a hard one to call, isn't it? The rate, I don't even know which way to go on this one because I don't know which way we'll go with Joel Way.
This tournament, Morgan, is a 3-day event. 70 people playing. And yet it's tee times. Normally you see tee times with larger fields because you have to have tee times with larger fields. You can't really have more. It's very difficult on an 18-hole course to cram more than about 70 people in. What's your view? Do you prefer if all things being equal, do you prefer shotgun or do you prefer your tee time?
Oh man, it's so situational. One thing I was just going to ask is, okay, so they've got I've just shot over to their disc golf scene page. They've got a maximum of 80 players on there. So not quite a sellout. I was just interested to know if they were allowing upwards of 150 people on there, and they were hoping for a few more, and that's how it's panned out.
It could be daylight savings because you've got to finish your round obviously before it gets dark, and so if it's getting dark at 5 o'clock, then you need to have started your round really probably by about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so situational, man. You can't even really comment on it, and I can't on this tournament because I've never played it. I don't know the course. So yeah, it's situational. I have preferences for all different events of different days and layouts and styles. Shotgun starts mixed with tee times, and just touching on that one, guys. If you're waiting for the information on Waihi Tapu for that, it will be out soon. Your voting is just so down the middle. Now it's up to us to decide again.
Pretty stacked FA1 field that's going to be playing with each other for the whole tournament, and they're not split on the first round, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Who do we think is going to play well there? I've got an idea. Who do you think?
I'm going to support my good mate Amy Whitmore in this one. I'd love to see her take down the W.
I think Michaela Kerr is going to test her somewhat in this tournament.
Yeah,
every time
I think so.
if you don't follow Michaela on Instagram, send her a follow. The amount of videos of her doing field work, practice putting, whatever she puts in the hours, man. I tell you, it's incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
MA40. Oh, where are we going? There we go. MA40, the best division. James Sutton's the highest rated player going into this one. Mark Vanderpost is capable of putting a round together that scores better than his rating, that's for sure. And I know that Owen Mandazodza, if he can get that sidearm working well, he'll be one to contend.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with all those people there, at least not on the course, seeing them play. So, I'll just be blindly picking a horse in this division right now. Which I'll happily do in Brendan Butler.
Fair enough. Chris Kingsnorth perhaps has the ratings advantage here, being 60 points clear of the rest of the field. It'll be interesting to see if Des Cooper et al. Can put him under any pressure this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think Chris has got this one wrapped up before he even steps on the course.
And then Finn Rumours, who we spoke about a few weeks back, played very well at Dystopia. A youngster from Inglewood, who is playing in MA2, highest rated player in this division. Looks like he might do well.
Yep. I think we're going to back the favourite horse in this one as well, especially since we keep bringing his name up.
Mm-hmm. And finally, a pretty busy MA3 card. Lots of people who are playing their first tournaments, which is fantastic. Lots of people who are playing an early tournament in their PDGA career as well. So we wish them the very best of luck.
Yeah, there's some powerful names in there. The Mr. Honeybone and the Snowball brothers, I assume. Brilliant.
There it is. Indeed. So very best of luck to everybody playing there. Now, we're also going to just flip across the Rip and Dip, which is happening this weekend. And so, right, we've got some names up the top here that Morgan, you'll be more familiar with. Francis is the highest rated player going into this round. Ethan Stout is the favourite going into this round off his exploits at GCO. And Johnny Ferrari, following his win recently at both Armageddon and GCO, is stepping up to MPO in this one. Maybe with the absence of an MP40 division. We'll check that in a minute.
Yeah, it's the absence of MP40 that he's in that one. He doesn't want to step back down to MA40. Man, this is going to be a hell of a battle here on this course. It's not a course that any of us know. It's brand new.
Do you know what it's like?
It's on a golf course.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware. So, if you can take that for what it is and think back to who's been doing well on these golf courses, Ethan and Johnny, most recently, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Francis has got a bomb though.
Always there.
He's always thereabouts, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised to see him with a podium position.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got Chris Dixon hiding out up there as well. I mean, I'm not sure what the length of all the holes are, but if there's some bomber holes, this man has got one of the biggest arms out there. So yeah, accurately too. So I wouldn't write off a Chris Dixon from sneaking up onto a podium spot there.
There we are. So yeah, pretty strong field down in Dipton. It's just the one-day event on the 28th, which is 26th, 7th, 8th. It's on Sunday. So if you're watching and you're unsure what hole you're playing on, it's on the PGA site. So have a look now. Nicola Stout and Echo go head to head in FPO. Nicola probably edges this.
Nicola probably edges this, but Echo Lee won the Elite Series overall FPO championship. Yep. She is basically right now in the signing process of her new Innova sponsorship contract that she won via this. So she's going to be coming into this one with a bit of fucking... Oh, excuse me. I've literally had one sip of beer and I let the F word slip. Apologies, team. She's going to be coming into this with...
ahead of steam.
Something to prove.
Yes.
Ahead of steam, which apparently I've got already. Far out. Anyway, down into MA1. If we jump down into MA1, this is going to be quite close. I think this one could be an absolute shot in the dark who takes this one down. I don't think ratings mean too much here. Everyone top to bottom that list is capable of putting on a really hot performance, and I've seen it from all of them in very recent times.
There we are. That's another absolutely tight division. We've got in FA1 four names I'm not particularly au fait with. Looking like they're playing
FA1.
Many playing their first tournament.
I'll go with that. Amy Marshall's been around for a while. Her PDJ number might not reflect that. She's been playing for quite a long time now. I've played with her for quite a few years. So I'm going to go up with Amy Marshall to take this one down. I am familiar with Haley, but not the two other ladies, so can't speak to that.
In MA40, the best division, Andrew Barnett, Rob McNaughton and Matthew Rance lead the way ratings-wise. Then a little bit of a gap to Darryl Winter and others.
Yep, I'm going to shoot from the hip on this one and go. I think Maddie Rance is going to have a good win this weekend.
There we go. And down into MA2, Brian Stout. Presumably that's the dad of Levi and Ethan, wife of Nicola.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's in that division. Either way, I'm going to go with... I think Joseph Ball and William Murawai are going to have a really good battle this weekend. I'd love to say that Arn's going to have a good performance, but brother, you need to figure your putting out.
Fantastic.
On the show?
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out how well that goes. Could it be a Stout triple header? Triple win?
A Stout out? Yeah. Definitely could be. But as I said, Joseph Ball and William Murawai, those guys are down in Montana Flat a couple of weeks ago playing, and seen them both shooting some awesome disc golf down there. So I'd love to see these guys get up there and have a battle for that top spot.
Jake Michael also competing. He'll be fresh off his maths exam, wanting to hopefully be congratulating himself on a job well done. Don't forget your calculator to that one. That will be it.
Let's go, Jake.
And a massive MJ18 division.
Oh wow! Yes, there is.
Connor Rance, I think, is probably favourite out of this lot.
Yep. Scrolling. Yeah, definitely. There's a few kids in there that are a number of years younger than him.
Okay.
With a little bit less experience, but that are all playing really well. But I think Connor is just at another step in his progression in disc golf right now. Okay. I did see that. I think he chained out for an ace on a par 4 in the last couple of days. So commiserations.
I have to be cheering on Drake Maxwell, clearly. and Alexis Dixon competing in FJ18. So we've got 2 tournaments this weekend, all going on. Let's have a quick look at the upcoming events. Now, there are quite a few that have been added since last time. This is only page 1, right? We've got another page still to go.
So over here.
Brook, Pot Brave and Rip and Dip is this weekend. Lords and Ladies of Lismore is next weekend with Hanna Hot Rounds. Then is the Women's Global event. Now, if you haven't got involved in this yet, then you need to. The Women's Global event, there's one in Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, Invercargill. No excuse not to get involved. And there's heaps of people already registered. So just looking at the numbers here, 43 in Auckland, 28 in Invercargill, 47 in Wellington. Get on, Wellington. And there's still at least one more I know that's going to go on there. And then Christchurch has got 52. Some of those are MA2 and MA3 players, which they're incorporating into the event. Remember, Women's Global event is a status that you apply to a tournament, or rather a flag that you apply to a tournament. It doesn't say that only women can play in the Women's Global event. It says this event is a Women's Global event, and so you can have men playing in MA divisions.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, some in the States, a lot of some big A tiers are Women's Global events, and they have MPO fields, etc. So yeah, the 52 players down in Christchurch so far, but a good number in the ladies divisions. So yeah, that's going to be good to see. Nottingham Giants is in June, Sub-Zero in July. That's the first Elite Silver Series event of the year. Yep. The Tucker Beach Rush is later on in July. Small Bone Slam, that's a new event, Morgan, on the Elite Silver Series that will be played at Smallbone in Christchurch on the 17th of August. Have I got that right? Is that that's Ashburton, actually, isn't it?
Ashburton, correct.
My apologies. That should say Ashburton, not Christchurch. Blood Sacrifice and the first in the Black Ice Series. It's a two event series this year. Black Ice Duel Midwinter Classic is in Dunedin on the 24th of August. Very good day. Mark that one for your calendars. It's one of the best days of the year. The Hagley Huck is the 15th of September in Christchurch, and that's the third Elite Silver event. And then finally the final Meltdown in September if you're beginning to plan out your winter/spring events. And on to page 2 for the first time in a while.
Page 2.
The Topor Thermal Throwdown, one of my favourite events, is on the 5th to the 6th of October. I'm going to see if I can get up to that. It might be pretty tight timing wise, but we'll see. And then you've got 2 more Elite Series, one middle of October, one beginning of December, Morgan, in Owaka and Te Anau. Names to be confirmed, but the dates are locked in. Is that right?
Yeah, dates are locked in for those ones, and I do have another couple where the township is locked in, and we don't quite have a name and a date. Well, one of them is awaiting. Okay, so we've got Nelson.
Okay,
right. We've got Nelson as an event here. It's very much in the planning process right now, and they've gone to council. Tommy Strawbridge has gone to council to confirm a date. Mm-hmm. He has confirmed with the club, which is good. And hopefully he'll come up with a name for me in the next couple of days. And then I'm just trying to see. I think you've got all of them. Oh, we are looking at having another one in Invercargill as well. And then I have one more trick up my sleeve, which I'm not going to tell you anything about right now.
All right. Well, to be confirmed then. So at least 3 more events on the Elite Silver series that's going to be going up. And then there's New Zealand Nationals, which was announced earlier on today. On Waitangi weekend next year in 2025. So mark your calendars, book your leave, and
we have Waihi Tapu on that list as well, Matt. I thought it was on there, but it doesn't seem to be.
Oh, okay. I must have missed it.
Waihi Tapu's the first weekend of November.
Okay, I shall add that to the list.
Yep, Perfect. Thank you, sir.
And looking now at the power rankings, these haven't changed in the last week. So Ethan Stout and Jackson Sullivan are your favourites going into the weekend's competition, although Joe Berry and Simon Feasy and Francis Orange will likely put them to the test. Johnny Ferrari is the other top 20 player who competes this weekend at the Rip and Dip. And over in the ladies division, Michaela Kerr is the favourite up in Tequity. And Nicholas Stout is the favourite, ranked 11th in the country going into Dipton. That leaves it for today's show, other than to say, Morgan, have a lovely time on all of on your holiday. It's a holiday / honeymoon.
Yeah, man, it's our honeymoon. Couple years in the making. Pretty blimmin' excited to get through work tomorrow and just get on the move.
Fantastic, and you're going to Mexico, so so you're going to be full of tequila, at least at some point. And
oh, you know me too well.
so very best of luck with that. And next week, I'll be joined by my guest host, Arne Burgess. Will be joining for the time that Morgan is away, and we shall see if we can get Arne Burgess's future ex-wife onto the show as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I just want to give a big thanks to Arne for actually filling my shoes. I did check with him yesterday. He is also a size 12, so he'll be perfectly fine.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just thanks for that. Thanks everyone for the support we get for the show. Obviously, I'm only gone for a couple of weeks, but I will miss you. I will miss you all, and I will be tuning in when I get the opportunity to, and I might get a wee bit cheeky in the chat just because I'm not there. And my last thing for tonight, I want to give a massive shout out to the 21 people that have signed up for our Koh Samui tour for next year.
Wow, 21.
21 people
jetting off to Thailand. And so
yeah,
that's going to be that's quite a is that a lads on tour kind of experience deal, or have you got
a little bit. I mean, there's a few ladies coming with us. I think there's three or four ladies.
Good.
I think there's 3 or 4 ladies that'll be joining with us. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of disc golf. Well, I think most days you will be finding us on the disc golf across the whole trip. But we've got some activities planned, and it's just going to be a hell of a time. And man, 21 people is incredible.
Yes,
so
well, good luck.
Thank you so
good luck
much.
herding everybody through the various different things that you have to do on that. Anyway,
we'll all be on scooters. It'll be great.
Look, Morgan, have a fantastic time on your honeymoon, and very best of luck to anybody playing at the Ripper-Dip or Brook Park Brave this weekend. Wherever you're playing disc golf, take it easy, play well, get some birdies, and we'll see you